Philadelphia has had its fair share of the different serial killers and where the crimes either took place or where they lived. I didn't realize how many there were, so the original video would have wound up being 3 hours long. Instead, I decided to start at the Frankford terminal and just work my way through the different crazy people and scenes here in North Philadelphia. I'd started up at the Frankford Transportation Center to showcase the Frankford slasher, an unknown serial killer that was active between 85 and 90. And I ended up on the Temple's campus to show you guys Harrison Graham, who killed 7 people and kept their bodies in his apartment. I went along this 9-mile drive in North Philly and was able to stop and showcase 6 different infamous serial killers just in this little area. All right, the first stop on our serial killer extravaganza, we are here in Frankford section of Philadelphia. We are at the Frankford Transportation Center, formerly known as Bridge and Pratt, for all the old heads here in Philadelphia. To the right is the new Frankford Transportation Center there. That was built in 2003, or it was upgraded in 2003. This here used to be the original section here. Bridge and Pratt is. Frankfurt and Pratt's back there. And then up here, back here in this thing somewhere, is where Goldie's Bar is that everybody used to go to down here. I'm here in Frankford, the Frankfurt section of Philadelphia at Bridge and Pratt. This is where the elevated train line starts. Here, I'm going to turn around so you guys can see. Down there is the Frankfurt Terminal Transportation Center. Bridge and Pratt is right here. This is where, and then in 2003, let me get out of the sun, they changed it, or they built that and turned it into the Frankfurt Transportation Center. Now the reason I'm telling you guys that is, this is the 5200 block of Frankfurt Ave right here. This is where the Goldie's Bar used to be. Somewhere along right here. It was called Goldie's Bar. And there's also, you know, as we're driving here up Frankfurt Ave, to show you guys, there was a lot of bars. Like, look, there's a sports bar there. There's a lot of bars up here, and then there was 3 in particular that these girls that got killed used to go to, and so they think that, you know, the guy must have went there and met him there or something. They were all seen with a middle-aged white guy shortly before they disappeared. To this day, he has never been caught, although one person, I think his name was Lloyd Christopher, he was arrested and convicted of the 8th killing in the Frankfurt slasher thing. And then he was in jail. He was already convicted and in jail, and then a 9th girl was killed. Which is, you know. So people were like, oh, you gotta let him out or nothing. So they never let him out or anything like that. But, you know, people, the Innocence Project took up his case at one point. But he wound up dying of cancer while in jail. But if you guys are looking on the right and left, you'll be able to see how many businesses, even up here, we're still a little bit away from Kensington, are shuttered down. freezing day out. But you look at this the side. It's maybe one business open for every 6 or 7 that are shuttered, that are closed. Now, this little trip I'm going on, it's to visit 6 different sites of where serial killers lived or the crimes occurred. 6 different serial killers, and it's within an 8-mile drive all around North Philly. And this is just the ones in North Philly, to be honest with you. I was going to put the West Philly ones in there too. It's just too much. I'm going to have to do it in groups. That's why I broke it down to just the North Philly ones I'm doing now. There's literally 6 right here. It's wild. I was just going to do the drive without braking and all that and stopping so you guys could see how close it is, but the traffic in here is horrible, so I have to do a plan B and keep stopping this, but that's all right. So without traffic, it would have taken maybe 6 minutes, 5 minutes to get to Frankford, back down to here. We're back down into Kensington now. Frankford and Kensington, they are neighboring neighborhoods. They were always been known as, lower class white neighborhoods, big Irish, Polish, German sections. That's historically what it was known, and then after the deindustrialization of America in the 50s, it turned into pretty much what it is today. Now, the second guy on our list that I'm going to talk about was the Kensington Strangler. In fact, I was just interviewing a girl, or, I was walking by and I started talking. I have it on video. I'm going to put it in here. A girl almost, she got away from him, which is pretty crazy. But this one is a little bit more personal to me. I was in jail when, this was a really short period of time this happened. It was 3 months. It was like October, and then October to like December was his little three-person killing spree, and then he got caught in January. At the time, it was just in 2010 going into 2011, so there was a lot of social media presence then starting. There was Facebook pages about catching him, and I remember being in jail and watching the news and seeing, story after story about him, and they had surveillance of him, and you could tell it was a dark-skinned black male. He was wearing a gray hoodie, yada, yada, yada. And it took a couple weeks. Well, the last one was December 15th. And he got caught January 11th. The crazy thing about that is he had to submit his DNA on October 25th because he'd just gotten out of jail. And so he gave them this DNA on the October 25th, but it took him until January 10th to test it. So the one girl, I'll have to put her name in, Casey something, she wouldn't have been killed if they were able to test it right away. So that's a shitty little thing to learn about this. And they caught him, and they found him, and all the murders and everything happened all within a 10-block radius right down here. Guy's name was Antonio Rodriguez. So I was in jail when it was happening, and when he got arrested, he went to CFCF first, and then they transferred him to my jail, which was Pick, the jail I was in. And he was there for a couple days, and I was the laundryman there, so I would give everyone their new laundries, their blues and all that. So then he said he wanted to hurt himself, though, and so he's only there for 2 more days. But this is where they found one of the bodies. Or here's the first body of his. It was back here. And we all know how popular, or everyone knows about this. I think it was back there somewhere where they found it. It's hard to get all the facts from just what's publicly available. Put you on this?
Yeah,
that's my wife.
The strangler, one day I was knocking.
Kensington strangler.
We ain't gonna talk about the strangler, babe.
Oh, well.
We're talking about life, babe.
But
Listen.
No, I want you to hear. Okay, hold on. Let her say something about the strangler real quick, and I'll go right back to you. 'Cause that's what this video is about.
When I was walking one day, and the guy on the bike, he came up, he rode up on me, and he stopped. And I was knocking on my girlfriend's door, He had just killed a girl on Roof Street.
Roof Street, that's
and
from
Atlantic Street.
Yeah.
And he had a gray sweatsuit on, and you couldn't see his face.
Okay.
He rode up on a bike, and I'm knocking on the door. I'm like, oh my God, I knew it was him. I felt that from him.
Wow.
He stopped in front of me. He stopped and he was looking at me, but I couldn't see his face. It was like a hood on, but it was all black. I couldn't see him. And luckily they opened the door for me because he had just killed the same guy that they caught was the same guy that was rode up on me.
Wow. Antonio's his name,
luckily,
Rodriguez.
Yes, luckily he had a gray sweatsuit on. He was on a pedal bike.
God.
And I was knocking on the door, and he stopped. And he was looking at me for a good 5 minutes. And I was knocking on the door. I was like, oh my God, please help me. If I wouldn't have gotten in that door, he would have killed me that day.
Wow.
I'm telling you, he rode up on me that day. And he stopped. He stopped just like that on his bike. He was staring at me. I couldn't see his face though.
Yeah.
And I was so glad that my girlfriend did open the door at the time.
Yeah.
Because if he didn't, he probably would have got me right there.
Wow.
He was on his bike. And I remember him that day. And then when I seen him, them catch him on Front Street, I was like, that was him. He would have got me. But he had just killed somebody on Front Street.
Yeah, that was 2010 when that happened. Yep. Yeah. It was all of them kills was in 10 block radius.
Yes,
yeah,
and
awesome.
He rode up on me though. He was on a pedal bike, and he had a gray sweatsuit on, but I could not see his face. And I was knocking on the door, and I was looking at him, and he stopped. And he looked at me, and that split second that he didn't, that she didn't open the door for me.
But you want to run the street instead of being home
Yes.
with me, babe.
So you got lucky that day.
I got lucky that day.
Wow. But it was 3 girls. He would just, get them for a date, and then he would just, as you were doing their thing, he would just start choking them and hitting them and beating them, and then they would die. And then he tried to claim that he didn't mean to kill them. He just liked having rough sex, but they said that's not what the evidence showed. So there was another parking lot right around here that they found another one in. I mean, if you were around Philly or this area in the end of 2017, you will remember the city the city was going crazy over the Kensington Strangler, because that was like when social media was just getting going, and so social media was new then to a lot of people. So it was like the first major thing like that where people were able to talk in mass and try and help. Like I said, there was a bunch of Facebook groups and stuff like that trying to help find him. They actually found the wrong person, or they got one of the wrong people, so that guy wound up suing the city for a lot of money. Now, the next guy we're going to go, or the house the guy used to live in, he was an active serial killer, 1974 to 1975. His name is Joseph Kallinger, the shoe fetish slayer. And he was a shoe cobbler here in Kensington. He was adopted. He was adopted just to be like a slave, pretty much, in these people's shoe cobbler business. That's all the only reason they adopted him. If he messed up, they would like put cigarettes out on him, burn him, lock him in this little closet, make him sleep in a closet. Like, this guy was fucked from day one. It's pretty horrible what he went through. It still doesn't, excuse all the stuff he did. But he was legit crazy. He had a lot of mental illness once he grew up, multiple personality disorder, schizophrenic. He had grandeur, religious ideations, or whatever that thing is called. He killed one of his sons, and he thought he had to kill 3 million more people. And then after the 3 millionth person, he would have to kill himself so he could turn into God. Which is batshit crazy, but And we're coming right up to his spot right up here. Like I said, I didn't realize how many serial killers were in such a small area of this city. It almost makes me want to look into other cities and see if there's clusters like this in different places, because this is crazy. And then we are here already. This is Front Street. We're at Front in Kensington now. I'm sorry, Front in Lehigh. And then here we go. And then there it is right there, that White House with the yellow trim around the windows. I have a little video I made. I will splice in right about now, but that's it. Right, this is it right here, this White House I'm about to walk by. This one right here, this is where he lived. Let's see, just this way is Lehigh Street, and this is Front Street that goes into Kensington. But this is the house right here. I'll go over here so you can see it better. This whole white air, and then apparently in those is where some of the real horrible stuff happened. And then we're heading down now. We're gonna just head down Front Street here. Now, the next person or house we're going to go see is on American Street here, still in North Philadelphia. Now, the next house we're going to see, like I said, is on American Street. And this is what kind of got me started on this whole thing. Once I did the research on this lady's name is Marie No. This was a very, very big case. She got arrested finally in 1998. Her killings were from 1949 to 1968. She had 10 kids, all of which had died before the age of 2. Out of those 10 kids that all died, 8 have said to die under mysterious circumstances. Back then was when the sudden infant death syndrome, SIDS, was just becoming known, and that's what was given as an excuse for all her kids dying, which, looking at it now or reading it now, it's like 8 kids before, or 10 kids before they realized and said, wait, what the hell's going on here? Now, after the 10th kid that passed away, the state forced her to have a hysterectomy so she couldn't have kids anymore, which is, good. Her and her husband continued to live their lives for years. And then in 1997, there was a book written called Cradle to the Grave. The book was called Death of Innocence by Richard Firstman and Jamie Talon. It's about Juanetta Hoyt, who killed 5 of her kids. Stephen Fried wrote the article Cradle to the Grave, and that was in Philadelphia Magazine. I will leave links to both of them in the description. Which, girl, I'll have to put her name in. And she's another one that started to get away with killing her kids over... But it was, and they were blaming it on SIDS, and then it came out that, no, she was killing the kids, and, so she finally got into trouble for that. Now, here's the block. We are on it right now. I'm sorry. I'm an idiot. It's the next one up. So, the book Cradle to the Grave came out in 97, so then people started looking at her case again. Because, 8 kids from SIDS, and the saying is if it's more than one, then it's murder. Article that came out in the Philadelphia Magazine about her, and as soon as the guy got done doing all the research and wrote the article, he gave the paperwork to the cops, and then the cops brought her in the next day, interrogated her, and she finally admitted to killing them. Well, she admitted to killing 4 of them, and this is it, this little unassuming block right up here. Right where this guy is, right here, right there. That, and she lived there until she died. Because the crazy part is, when they interrogated her, she finally admitted to killing 4 of them. She said she killed. She didn't understand. No. She said she killed 4 of them, but she didn't know how the other 4 had died. And after all was said and done, she got 5 years house arrest. Oh shit. And 5 years of house arrest and 20 years probation. And she had to agree to let doctors study her brain, and she had to be in this big study, which she actually never did, which is crazy in and of itself. So yeah, man, 20 years of probation for killing 8 kids. Crazy stuff. Lynn Abrams was the district attorney when that happened. She's the one that gave her the deal. And funny enough, she was the judge in the Gary Heidnick case. So she saw her share of crazies. Speaking of Gary Heidnick, that's where we are on our way to. Marshall Street here in North Philadelphia. This was a true house of horrors. He was the inspiration for Buffalo Bill. One of the inspirations of Buffalo Bill, Silence of the Lambs. He held 4 girls in this house for months. 2 of them wound up dying. One of the girls that died, he dropped off in the Pine Barrens in New Jersey. The other one, he made the other girls help him chop up the girl, and the cops found 27 bags full of body parts in his freezer. But he also cooked the some of that human meat up, mixed it with dog food, and that's what he fed the girls. And we are here on Marshall Street. We're about to come up on it now. It's such a small, little, unassuming house. It almost looks out of place. It's right up here on the left. This little guy right here. Right here's. There it is. That is the house. The one on the left. This little guy with the brown. That's it. So it's so crazy, you know. Right there was Gary Heidnik. I believe he was the last person to be put to sleep. Death sentence here in PA. So the last person we have on this little serial killer field trip is Harrison Graham, Marty Graham, he was known by. He was another serial killer that was active in 1986 to 1987. At the same time as the Frankford slasher and Gary Heidnik, which is crazy to think that those three people were all picking up girls off of Kensington Ave at the same time, and they all got away with it for years. Now, the house that he did all this nasty stuff in isn't there anymore, but there is a new house there. So, I wanted to show you guys what it was like there. This guy was a freaking nutcase. He killed 7 girls. He would pick up girls and get high with them and then kill them afterwards. He kept all their bodies in his apartment. After a while, the neighbors started complaining about the smell coming out of his house, and he would just ignore them, and the cops came and yelled at him about it a couple times, and he'd just kind of ignore them, and finally he got evicted. And the day he got evicted, he screwed his door shut, the front door, and then climbed out the fire escape and just disappeared into the night. And then the landlord couldn't open the door, so he called the cops. The cops, busted the door down, and as soon as they busted the door down, the first thing they saw was a dead lady laying on a mattress, dead black lady. She might have been decapitated at that time, I'm not sure. But that's how. And then they started putting his name or his face all over the news and stuff, and he eluded the cops for a week. And then he went and saw his mom, and his mom finally convinced him to turn himself in. And then that saga was over. Now, I've never been to this crime scene. I didn't even know about this guy until I started doing this research. Like, I heard about him before, but I didn't know about him. Like, if you go onto YouTube, there's not too many documentaries on him. Like, there are other serial killers. Even the Philadelphia ones, you can see the Gary Heidnik ones everywhere. We are currently on Broad Street heading south towards Center City. Now, this guy, Marty Graham, Harrison Graham, and Gary Heidnik were at the same time, and it was only 1.5 miles that separated them two. Imagine being a girl that did dates here in the city because you have a crack problem, and you have to deal with not 1, not 2, but 3 serial killers
that might pick you up to kill you. And you know, they picked up mostly black girls that smoked crack, and there's a reason they picked them up, because cops normally don't care about them. Those are what they say are the most least dead people in America. Like when they find out a black sex worker, drug addict gets killed, they might give it a day to look it over, if that. So back in the day when I used to come down here to get drugs, you'd go to the left, which would be Kensington and the Badlands, if you wanted to get, you know, dope or crack or coke. And then you would go to the right, which is where this guy lived, if you wanted pills. We're about to cross Diamond Street, 17th and Diamond. That was considered Pill Hill back when I was coming up. That's where we all went to get our Xannies and Percocets, back before they were fake. We're on Broad Street still. You could see the William Penn there on top of the building, but we are in Temple. Temple's always been a interesting place because a couple blocks to the left, one of the most dangerous cities or neighborhoods in America. A couple blocks to the right, another one of the most dangerous cities in America, or neighborhoods. And then you got tons of rich white kids walking around here. So there was a lot of they were getting robbed and stuff like that, you know. It can be it has gotten better, but it can be a little bit of a issue for kids going to school here. And then here we are about to make a right onto Oxford Street. We're pretty much there now. Like I said, I've never been here before, so we are going to be seeing it together at the same time. This is all gentrified now. This used to be a rough neighborhood, even with Temple being right there. But as you can see, they're all big freaking... This is all student housing down here now that... look, you can see here. What does that say? Temple Villas. It's all it is down here. Student housing. So, you know, before 20 years ago, none of this student housing here existed. This was a rough neighborhood. Rough area. See, all this still new housing, new student housing. So that right there. So this is all new, but that's where it would have been right there. Harrison Graham. Apparently there was like I'm going to try and... I'm going to see if you can get back there. There was like well, it's not going to be like that anymore. Let me see. There was back there used to be like a, you know, it was able to hide stuff back there. It was like his apartment was out in the cut a little bit. But that's it, man. How crazy is that? 6 serial killers within a 9-mile loop here in North Philadelphia. 3 of which were all operating at the same time. I mean, how crazy is that? A lot of people say it's from the dyes in the textile mills that screwed people up around here or in Kensington more. A lot of people blame it on leaded gas. There's a lot of evidence about how angry leaded gas makes people. Who really knows what it is? I think it's just it was just a crazy time for serial killers, the 80s, 90s. Let me know what you guys think it is. I'm curious what you guys believe. But that's it, man. There's our tour of the crazy serial killers of North Philadelphia. I will be doing a part 2 in West Philly because there's a bunch of crazy stories over that way too. All right, guys. Till next time.